Good morning. This is Beth from Parris House Woolworks, and I'm just going to shoot a little happy Halloween video. One of the questions that we get asked most here is the Parris House haunted? And my answer to that is maybe. We have a lot of history here at the Parris House. When you first walk in, you're going to see pictures of people who came before us on the walls here. And we've had some experiences here that make us think that maybe some of them are still hanging around in some capacity. I'll give you a little quick history. This is Pedro Tavucan Parris. He was adopted by Virgil and Columbia Parris. He was an ex-slave. He was abducted in Africa, East Africa, and brought through Rio de Janeiro and eventually to the Parris House. Rio at that time, as some of you may know, was a major slave trading hub. The reason he ended up here is because Virgil D. Parris at the time was a United States Marshal for Maine, and he prosecuted the slave ship that Pedro was on. There's actually a lot of information about Pedro Tavucan out on the web. I can put links on our Facebook page for that. There is a professor at Wellesley, Martha McNamara, currently writing a book on Pedro's life. So there will be a lot of information about Pedro, not only existing on the web, but coming even sooner in the form of a book. This is relative to the Parris House, circa 1905, standing in front of the house. Those who come here may recognize that little sapling as the very, very old golden chain tree that we have right on the corner that blooms beautifully every spring. That is the biggest and oldest golden chain tree in the state of Maine, according to the Forestry Service. And then this is Columbia Parris and her sister Abigail Prentice. And Columbia lived here until after she was 100 years old. Unfortunately, Pedro died of pneumonia in 1860, and he died here in the Parris House. So let's take a little walk around, because I want to show you what some of the claims are here, and actually that we have seen with our own eyes. So sometimes, here we are at the kitchen, and this is the pantry door, and this is the door that comes up from the back stairwell from the garage. And as you can see, this door has an antique turn on it. You know, this door does not just open. In fact, if I pull on it like this, I'm going to get nowhere. Sometimes when we're on the other side of that door with heavy packages or our arms full, the door will open for us. And we don't know why, but it does. The other claims here are, when we go into the studio, we have had hookers here who have said that they get interesting scents. They might smell lavender, they might smell flowers, and it's often right in that corner where the corner cabinet is. That corner cabinet's not original to the house, actually. That came from my grandmother's beach house in Sea Isle City, New Jersey. But that is the general area where the hookers, a couple of them, have noticed some interesting scents that cannot be explained, almost like perfume or flowers. We've also had claims of pipe smoke in the front hall, and my children have heard boot steps in the attic above their heads, and we have heard singing coming from what we call the antique bathroom upstairs. Almost like a lullaby is what has been reported. So I think this would not be a complete, well, let's open the door. I think this would not be a complete tour if we did not go to the cemetery, which is directly behind the house. And we're going out through the screen porch here, and you can see how beautiful the mountains are this morning. But what a lot of people don't know is that directly behind the Parris House we have two antique cemeteries. And our people who lived in the house here and their family are buried in this one cemetery called the Knoll. Now, I want to caution everybody, this is a private cemetery. I have permission to go into this cemetery by my neighbors whose family it belongs to. If you look again around in the distance, there's a beautiful, beautiful old brick Federal, 1813, right cat-a-corner across the street. And it is to that family and their descendants that this cemetery belongs. So we'll just take a walk back here. You're going to see the Parris House apple trees on the left. They were not very prolific this year. It's an off year for them. I thought they might be, but they kind of failed to deliver this year. Sorry for all the camera wobble. I'm not really that good at this yet. I need to hire my son to do these videos for me. You look over here, you'll see the backyard and where the beehives are. And we're just going to go into this beautiful, beautiful antique cemetery. The cemetery next to it is actually the town cemetery, which is where the earliest settlers of Parris, Maine are buried. And we're just going to look at a few of the graves in here that are related to the Parris House. Here is Edward L. Parris. He was a son of Edward L. and Mary Dubois. He's actually a grandchild of Virgil. We're going to go a little further back this way. And here's Percival. He's the youngest son of Virgil and Columbia Parris. He was the last Parris to live in the Parris House, lived there until the 1940s. Here's his wife, Elizabeth Commersall. Helen D. Parris, daughter of Virgil and Columbia. And here's Columbia, who you saw in that picture with her sister, Abigail. And finally, here's Virgil D. Parris, who was the United States Marshal from Maine, who adopted Pedro from the slaving ship. You can see there are a lot of other family members in this absolutely beautiful cemetery. I really love antique cemeteries. Love, love, love them. So when we bought the house, people were like, "Oh, you have cemeteries in the backyard. Didn't that put you off?" Actually, no, that was an attractant for us. My favorite grave back here, though, is Pedro Tavukin's. And this is Pedro's. It says, a native of Zanzibar, Africa, died April 10th, 1860, age 27. There was no cure for pneumonia back then, and the treatment wasn't that great. I'll be honest, it saddens me that Pedro died prior to the Civil War and its outcome, because he never saw the fight over slavery. He never saw the end of slavery. And Pedro had some very traumatic things happen to him in his journey from Africa to Parris, Maine, and to our house. Really tragic things that break my heart. But again, I'll put a link on our website. Now we have a few over here